We about to spill the tea now, Clay. Clay said before record started, Clay literally said,
should have some tea.
I should have some tea. We about to spill the tea now.
Yeah,
Welcome to the XR Remix Podcast. Just a 3-shot today. It's myself, live open mic. It's Hey Call Me Clay. It's Sho Futuristic.
What's up?
We now have JDun and Marty together, but with 5 of us with conflicting schedules and real life and all that stuff, it's gonna be hard to get all 5 of us together. But look, as long as we have 3, we're gonna come on. We're gonna record this. So we are back. We'll start with Sho. How you been? How you doing?
I'm good. It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
Catching up to the VR scene. I haven't played as much as I would like to lately, but I've been keeping up with everything. So yeah, still here.
Okay. Clay, how you doing?
I am also really great. Very busy with work, which has kept me away from this amazing crew, but definitely ready to jump back into all the VR discussions, especially all things around PSVR 2, which we'll talk about at some point today.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have JDun to tear it down.
I know.
We'll be
so we can speak
this time.
freely.
We can always speak freely.
Right.
I'm sorry, we don't have JDun's AVP avatar. Let's be clear on this. We'll never get real JDun again. So it's gonna be the floating head from now on.
Right.
All right. So Sho kind of touched on, but I do want to start with the check-in this time. What have you been playing? What are you looking forward to? Clay, you go first. We've been playing the VR. What are you looking forward to the rest of the year? Short list.
I tell you, my short list is I pretty fun. VR for me this year has been pretty fun. I opened the year with Assassin's Creed Nexus, which was really, really stellar, and it was one of the first one of the first games where I spent some time really admiring the fact that this is running on a standalone headset, and you really realize the power of the Quest 3 in that way. This full-fledged Assassin's Creed game, super, just fantastic. Right now, though, I am currently completely involved in Madison VR on the PSVR 2, and I am speechless because I completely underestimated how scary that game is.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. So you got to see the VOD. You got to see the VOD.
Man, I regret playing it, and I can't wait to jump back in all at the same time. And it's just one of the first games where, I literally, and Mike saw this on my last stream, I had someone in my chat say, this would be a good stopping point. And I was like, oh, word? Took the headset off. I was like, let's go.
Say less.
Wrap up stream.
Yeah. Say less. I'm out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to Metro. That's the next one I'm curious about. I'm very finicky about grab mechanics. I will say, unfortunately, spoiler, Madison also has some weird grab mechanics, which I'm not very happy about, and so it's making me kind of rage a little bit because I don't know why we're not spending time with the basic functionality of VR, which is literally grabbing things. So,
right.
But Metro is probably my big pick for this year. So yeah, that's what.
Were you spoiled by Assassin's Creed grab mechanics because they were really quite good? I think
they were.
Great. Yeah, they were really good. And I had this conversation with my chat, and someone asked the question, what are some games with good grab mechanics? And it was hard for me to pinpoint a game with a good grab mechanic, but it was more so that grabbing should be so natural, and I just notice when things are bad because it should feel natural, and in the games where it doesn't, it is very noticeable. So that's Arizona Sunshine 2, currently Madison, and I really, really hope that someone somewhere talk to those guys at Vertigo about making sure we do grabbing correctly in Metro.
Yeah. Grabbing is I liken it to like referees in a sports game. You don't notice them until they make a bad call.
Yeah. Well, I remember a moment when I was playing Asgard's Wrath 2 and also with Assassin's Creed where I was thinking, as I'm playing this feels good. Yeah. Like these guys have been paying attention. Like this feels right. And just those two games. And I wish more people would pay attention to what they did.
I agree. And I love your sentiment because I have said that when I played Assassin's Creed was this feels good, right? Yeah. Like that's one of my favorite things to say. If it feels good, it feels like it's fluid and the actions do exactly what you think they're supposed to do right off the bat. It's perfect, right? But again, it's just really noticeable when in Madison I have to just tweak my wrist just so slightly so that the icon changes, and then I can have to pull the trigger really quickly to make sure that I'm grabbing it. It's like, what is that?
Yeah.
Come on. So it's my one disappointment. But other than that, the game is super scary. I'll send you the link to the VOD. It's horrifying.
Okay.
And I'm playing again tomorrow.
He holds himself, Sho.
I
do.
He
holds himself.
Can't wait to see it.
It's so funny. I was crying.
Like
I was laughing so hard.
Repressed childhood trauma or something. I gotta go to therapy after this.
Yeah, in our group DM, I'll put a couple of links in there to watch some clips.
Yes,
please. It's so good.
Yes, please.
All right.
Horror is so perfect for VR.
It is. It's next level. A lot of people, I've talked to people who are like, I don't really get scared in horror games. I'm like, ooh, you
put the headset on.
You haven't played VR horror. That's a whole other level. So
one of my best friends,
highly recommend.
One of my best friends had nerves of steel. Never get scared of anything. Play one VR game, and it's just a walkthrough of a scary house, and jumped about 10 times in 45 minutes. Just because Mia, you know her, Clay, Mia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she played Affected the Manor.
Amazing.
She played Affected the Manor, and it was just, it was great. All right, Sho, what you playing? What you looking forward to?
I feel like I've been thinking about playing more than actually playing anything lately. I've been spending most of my time in VR, when I do get into VR, trying to make my Quest act like a Vision Pro for productivity. That's all. And I found lately I have a love-hate relationship with the Quest. Not that it's a bad piece, it's a great piece of tech, right? But after experiencing Vision Pro, it just feels so dark inside. The screen is very dimly lit. But outside of that, I've been thinking a lot about PSVR 2. And I know we're going to talk about that later.
Really?
But it's been on my mind a lot. I'll tell you that.
That's interesting that you haven't been using your Quest for gaming, but you're thinking about PSVR 2, which is a pure gaming VR headset.
That's right.
That's interesting.
Because I've separated in my mind that the Quest 3 is excellent for gaming and bad for everything else. Like awful for everything else, right? Where, and again, I don't own a Vision Pro, but if I did, I would use that exclusively for everything else and no gaming, right?
That's
so I've spent a lot of time. Yeah, that's what it is. But then I've been spending a lot of time thinking about gaming in general. There have been some great experiences in my Quest 3, but when I go back and think about my time, 10 years now in VR in general, all of my core memories, the feelings that I'm most emotionally attached to, are like PSVR 1 games, like Resident Evil 7 or Wipeout. So I started thinking, man, I wouldn't mind having a PSVR 2 with just a few excellent titles, and I'll be okay with that.
Which kind of sucks because neither one of those are on PSVR 2.
Yeah, but you got Resident Evil 8. Village.
Yeah.
You got the excellent Gran Turismo. So I'm thinking, wow, it wouldn't be so bad if you got it at the right price to have a few excellent games, and that's just what the library is.
Yeah. Well, absolutely going to touch on that.
I'll
make that the second topic. Because something you said is going to lead to our first topic. But real quick for me, this game behind me is Medieval Dynasty New Settlement. And not to bring the podcast down too much, but I recently had a death in the family, and I couldn't really deal with, as much as I wanted to put my headset on, I play a lot of like action games, and I didn't want to deal with anything overly heavy. This is the perfect game for me to be playing right now. I've put probably 40 hours into the game. I've never played crafting building games. I didn't play Roblox or Minecraft. Never played 7 Days to Die. I don't play survival games. I don't know what it is about this. Maybe it's just sometimes the right game comes along at the right time, and it's just what you need to be playing to kind of like take your mind off things. This helped me get through the last few weeks of dealing with a pretty major death in my family. So I'm addicted to this game. This is almost all I'm playing, other than what I've been playing on stream. Let's see. Since then, I played all of Max Mustard. Very, very good for what it was. It's not Game of the Year, but it's a good platformer. That's all it needed to be. I played all of this Chronia Cronus Alternate because that was on Quest Plus, and I never played that before. It's a proof of concept that the visual novel can work in VR. There's some issues with it, but overall I liked it. It's one of the best stories I've seen told in VR. I will say that. As a pure story, take all the mechanics and everything out of it, because I had a lot of problems with that game mechanically. But in terms of stories told, that was one of the best ones I've ever experienced. And I'm currently playing Budget Guts Ultimate because I've had that game for a year and never played it. So I wanted to get that off my backlog. As far as what I'm looking forward to, I'm a Batman guy. I've been a Batman guy my whole life. Yeah. So I'm going to replay all the Arkham games to get ready for Arkham Shadows. We're going to talk about Batman here in a minute, but that's my number one game right now. That has replaced Yeah, that's replaced Behemoth. I was really looking forward to Behemoth before Batman Kid. Now I'm like, okay, nope, Batman. Everything's Batman.
Yeah, it's funny. I've seen a few games that are coming out in 2024 videos, and I've seen a few people mention Behemoth, and I'm like, did somebody announce Behemoth was going to come out this year? Because from what I
When
remember, it
Skydance
was
delayed
still.
it, they said they delayed it to Q4 2024. So they at least put a time window on it. So let me
Just
help
like
my
Madison did last year when
let me
they
help my
said October, literally at the end of their trailer. We haven't heard
sorry.
anything from Behemoth, honestly. With all the
My
moves,
copium.
and
My copium.
with all of the moves, with all of the different delays, to me pointing at all the developers, feel free to delay your game. I don't have a problem with that, especially if it's going to make it great. But I don't think Behemoth is going to come out this year. I haven't heard anything from it other than the first trailer.
Moving on, next topic. No, I'm playing. No, I'm with you. But that was the game. Just because that it's medieval fantasy, it's all those things that
I would love for it. I cannot wait.
If I had to play another damn dystopian future game where you were walking around by yourself for 20 hours, you don't actually interact with another character at all, except maybe a disembodied voice in your head, because it's a lot easier to do a radio and some voice acting than actually give you a real life character in front of you to interact with, I'm gonna lose my mind. Like, I need.
You seem salty. You okay?
No, like. No, this is why Asgard's Wrath 2 spoke to me. This is why Medieval Dynasty spoke to me. This is why I loved Assassin's Creed Nexus so much. I missed how much I missed I did not realize how much I missed interacting with characters in games. And the more VR I've played, the less I've interacted with people in games. Because if you think about it, if you think about how many characters you interact with in a typical VR game, you might have one companion and that's it. But generally, you're interacting with a disembodied, pre-recorded voice. And that's generally what you're interacting with.
Yeah.
And for someone who played RPGs his whole life, that is not something I'm used to. So I need NPCs, developers. Give me NPCs. Give me NPCs, please. Yeah. It just makes the world feel more alive to me. That's why I don't like dystopian future games, because you spend most of that game by yourself. I'm like, no thanks. I'm good.
I think that's what's so incredible about not Asgard's Wrath 2, Assassin's Creed. That world is vibrant.
Yes. Even if all the animations are pre-baked and they don't look super great when you put them in the headset. Number one, the early Assassin's Creed games look like that too, and that's what this game is modeled after. Number two, it just adds so much to the environment to see people actually living and existing. I don't care if they're sweeping air. It's okay. It doesn't bother me right now. Like it's cool. Just they're there. I care.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right. So first story, and Sho kind of talked about this. About how Quest 3 is good for gaming and bad at everything else. Meta has decided that they're going to market their awesome OS that Sho on the previous podcast said was like a house of cards that he thought was going to tip over at any moment.
Well, you remember that.
Yeah.
Did I say that?
Yeah, let's be clear. Let's be clear. I agree with you. No, they're going to rebrand their operating system, Meta Horizon OS, and they're going to be licensing that out to other companies, hardware companies, so they can put Meta OS on their headsets and they'll have to worry about the software end of it. So already we've seen, Microsoft has announced they're going to do an Xbox specific, I guess like a collector's edition Quest headset. Okay. Lenovo, who for most people don't know, has made VR headsets before, including the Rift S. And I'm using that example because that's the one I own. They're going to be making a headset. And Asus, however you say that.
Asus, whoever.
Thank you. Yeah, whoever. They're going to be making a headset too. So Sho, I'm gonna start with you. You're, I think, the most tech oriented of everyone who's on this pod. How do you feel about Meta Horizon OS? Where are you at with that?
I'm against the general internet consensus, right? It is a great idea on paper, but I kind of agree with John Carmack and his statement about it, where he said that sounds good. It's not really open OS, and Meta doesn't have the bandwidth to properly support the other people who will be picking this thing up. All the other companies that are going to put this on their hardware, and it's going to be a cluster supporting all these people. And I suspect that's what's going to happen, because that's what's been happening with Meta since the Meta launch. So I don't think this is going to be smooth at all, and I don't think it's going to get smooth for a long time. It's already janky.
Yeah, I'm. What am I worried about? I'm worried about the OS just because the OS on all of the Quest headsets hasn't been anything spectacular, right? It hasn't been anything of note. And I think that it was truly revealed in that way when the Quest Pro was released, and it was the same OS that was running the Quest 2. And so the only difference was simply we just got more expensive hardware with some cool features, like eye tracking was a lot of fun. But then it never really got propagated through a lot of the other stuff, right? Eye tracking literally did what in the OS? It was simply to move your avatar's eyes, and then that was kind of it, right? So to your point, what I'd love to see would be, one, the promise that it can be fully supported with all of the, because now what we're doing is creating even more fragmentation amongst hardware devices, which is very, very scary. And then allowing people and developers to build on this. Can we support that whole ecosystem? And it's just a question mark. And honestly, I don't know. But yeah, those are my biggest concerns.
So Mark Zuckerberg did this bizarre interview right after he tried his Apple Vision Pro for the first time, where he said Quest is the best headset, period. Everyone laughed at that. But if you listen to the rest of that interview, one of the things he said is that he wanted Meta to be the equivalent of Android, the open system, as opposed to Apple's closed system.
Right.
And I think the long play here is they want to have the Quest Store be ubiquitous in the same way that the Google Play Store is and the Apple Store is, the Apple App Store is. So they want the Quest Store to be the store for XR across multiple different brands and headsets. In the same way that Android exists on any phone that's not Apple. Or if you're one of those weird people who has a Linux phone, which anyway. And frankly, that's scary because I'm going to agree with the two of you. The OS is not ready for that yet. And they don't, I think, have the infrastructure to support it in the way that it needs to be supported to make that happen. So it's a nice idea. And I've seen all kinds of content creators. Oh, this is the biggest news in the history of all that hyperbole stuff. Okay, cool, whatever. The ramifications of this, of putting a piece of software out there before it's ready, like you think of how bad like Windows ME was, for instance, but they were able to iterate over that and quickly get XP out and get Windows ME out of there. Meta has been slow to react to fixing their OS. We've been on more or less the same OS since about midway through the Quest 2 cycle, with a few additions here and there. But most of the stuff that we know, the way the UI looks now, was introduced in VE. I do a whole video about this. I think it's like V25 is when the OS that we know it as right now is when that one came out. That was 41 updates ago. And we haven't seen a major overhaul of it since to make it more user-friendly. There's still a lot of like UI things that needs to be fixed. So we're going to put this thing in the hands of multiple other companies, in the hands of multiple other people who aren't going to use it for gaming and are really going to be confused because it barely functions as a gaming UI, let alone as a UI for someone who's going to use this as they would use an AVP. So,
I wish Marty was here because I think Marty would probably be the best person to speak on this one.
Yeah,
as far as the technical background here, but I'm not. What I'm understanding when I read developers on Twitter, it's not really an open system. It's really just an Apple closed platform that they're allowing to be used on
other hardware.
On other hardware. That's been the big problem with other competing hardware, right? They don't have any kind of ecosystem. They have no store. So even if the hardware is better, it fails because there's nothing on it. Now this solves the problem.
Yeah, Pimax.
So imagine the Pico 4 or 5, but with Meta OS.
Right. So this is great for Meta, and it's great. I mean, third parties, these other hardware manufacturers will love this. This is fantastic because now they have a fighting chance, and they work with Meta. But as far as being an open platform,
no,
not really. No.
Okay, let's take the 50,000 foot view here, though. If I'm thinking about the North Star being, I need VR in the hands of more people. My team is resource constrained, right? Reality Labs is operating as a cost center at this point. We need people to build more headsets to make them cheaper, to get more headsets in the hands of people, to get more innovation out there. This could be a way in, even though you're right, maybe it's not fully an open platform, but there's a potential to help it or have it be the way or the medium that we get more headsets into people's hands and on people's faces, because that's what really converts folks, right? Like all of us here.
I don't think Lenovo is going to make a cheap headset though.
Like, well, maybe not Lenovo, but what about others?
Yeah.
I think by default, none of them are going to be cheap because they can't be, because they have to make up for licensing fees and then making up for not being meta, which has the ability to undercut their own costs.
Yeah,
right?
to subsidize it. Yeah,
to subsidize their own headsets. None of them are going to be cheap. You're only going to get more specialized hardware, right? I don't think that's the problem. I think as we get more headsets, my big concern is, do they work? Will the headsets work? Yeah. The software experience is what the problem is, right? So you get all these new people into the ecosystems, you get all these new people trying on these headsets, and on a fundamental level, things don't do what they're supposed to do. It's going to turn people off of VR, not convert people into VR users.
This is a good debate, because the other thing I think of is I was in the PSVR 2 and immediately, this is actually a very interesting thought. I saw someone on Twitter, they had just started to play Madison, and they were like, yeah, I forgot how premium the headset was until I put it on. And I put mine on and I was just like, these Fresnel lenses are a joke. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you can call some of it premium, but I'm still wired to my computer, which is a PS5. The headphone does feel very light. It doesn't feel substantial. It's light because all the processing is not even happening there. And I spent 10 minutes trying to find the sweet spot. Is there a version of this future where maybe we can get these pancake lenses with an economies of scale to get them cheaper, so that now more headsets have the access to them to make it a little bit more accessible to people, right? To your point, though, there's a big question mark. You're right. There is a huge potential for there to be crappy headsets. And we all know, we've all tried crappy headsets, and we're like, this will turn anybody off. Oh, I've tried VR once, and it was horrible because I got motion sickness because the headset fell off my face as I was doing Richie's plant experiment.
Or it felt too heavy, or was squeezing my head.
I mean, and people saw the same thing with the Vision Pro. So I think that both arguments are true. The questions we don't know, and I think rightfully so, the three of us are very skeptical. I mean, I could probably even say for the other two folks of this team, they're also probably skeptical too. So it's a good debate. I think there's good and bad, and it's just hard to know exactly where it lands, because I think there's compelling arguments on both sides. But so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm in a wait and see mode, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we're all there, but I think we can all agree it's not the unanimous biggest news ever, like it was being oversold as. So I think we're all
it's nice, and it's like one of those things that's like, hey, I think
it's interesting.
It is interesting, and I can't wait to see how this plays out. But it's still very much a question mark, because could a system like this actually work?
I feel bad for the
probably
first.
Not. It'll be rocky.
Yeah, I feel bad for the first company. The first company who puts out a headset is going to have an intense microscope under them. The first non-Meta produced headset that has Meta Horizon OS on it is going to be scrutinized to no end. They're going to evaluate every single thing, even certain things that don't have to do with OS, because tracking varies from headset to headset depending on what kind of cameras you're using and things like that. That sort of stuff is going to vary wildly, which one's going to make for a wildly different gaming experience. We've all had tracking issues across different headsets, and how much that can actually just screw up your experience. Like that, for the first one or two headsets that come out, they're going to be very heavily scrutinized, and Meta's going to be very heavily scrutinized for how well they support that OS in that process too. So I want to be number 3. I want to be the third one that comes to market. Like let all you guys make the mistakes, and then we'll come behind and kind of get it right. So
I wish I could go back to see like the beginnings of the Android platform, right? And what were the first phones that implemented Android outside of Google's, right? Same thing with Windows. It'd be interesting to see what that trajectory looked like, to see if there's anything that we can learn from that.
Yeah. But I will make one more point. You mentioned pancake lenses being ubiquitous. I can say this is a Pico 4 right here. The experience I had in this headset, even having pancake lenses, is very different than the one I had in my Quest 3 that's about 3 feet to my left here. So even if the hardware is the same, the software can still vastly change your experience. And it's not just the lenses. Some of the hardware can be different too, because it could be like the resolution of the headset, the way the backlighting happens, LCD versus OLED. There's so many different mitigating factors in there that I don't think just pancake lenses are like the big thing there, you know.
And that's exactly
I don't want
what
Fresnel
Carmack was talking about.
Yeah, I don't want
that
Fresnel
quality
lenses either.
control.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. There's so many different other things there.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So I mean, I agree with you. He said he didn't trust. I'm the same way. Like, there's so many different variables there to take into account that it's not going to be the boon that people are thinking about.
A lot of things have to go right here, right?
And continue to be supported. That's the thing on a regular basis. And I don't know. I've not seen any evidence that Meta has the internal structure set up to do that.
Yeah, I think they want to get there, but I don't think they're there yet. So we'll see. They're not Google though. They're not going to bail on a product after 2 years if it's not working. So at least I have some faith in that.
Google has been known to do that
multiple times over. Multiple times over.
Google I/O's next week, right? No, really, that's a big deal. They're supposed to be coming back into the VR space next week. We'll see.
And then 2020 is 2024 now. 2026 they'll bail on that like they did on Google Cardboard, Google Glass.
We'll see. I'm curious. I'm very curious.
I'm very curious, but I am not an early adopter. I'm sorry. I've seen Google just bail too many times.
I'm an early adopter. Yeah,
I need commitment.
Hate it, but I'm also you need commitment.
I need commitment.
Need promise.
I need commitment. Yes, I need put a ring on it. I need commitment. I need to know that y'all gonna be here for the long run.
Well, I got divorce issues. Okay, the money. Yeah. Meta spent the money. I get it.
All right. So next topic. I talked about this earlier. It's the game I'm most excited about. Batman Arkham Shadows was announced. Now, again, if you are a nerd like me, you've known about this game for a year. Because when when Meta bought Camouflage.
Wow. What's your allegiance here, sir?
There's a Switch a few feet from me because I'm playing a Switch game right now. So, no, when Meta bought Camouflage, the makers of Iron Man VR, and they ported Iron Man VR to Quest, it was in the FTC filing that they were working on an untitled Batman VR game. So VR nerds like me knew about this for a while, but it was finally confirmed at Batman Arkham Shadows. And, you know, the excitement quickly gave way to a wave of negativity. That is one of the most downvoted VR videos in history, VR announcement videos in history. We're going to find out more at the Summer Games Fest, aka the Jeff Keighley show. But let's see. IGN slammed it. What Culture Gaming slammed it. The entire PSVR 2 community and PC VR community just crapped all over it. Because it is, number one, a Quest 3 exclusive, which is the next topic, Quest 3 exclusives. And it is a Meta exclusive. It will not be on PC VR. It will not be on PSVR 2. Damn sure won't be on Pico or any other the other VR platforms. And it will not have a flat game equivalent. So basically, people are saying that it is cutting out a large portion of the gaming player base, not taking into account that, number one, this isn't being made by Rockstar and WB. It's being made by Meta and Camouflage. And two, Meta's paying for this. That's why it's going to be an exclusive, just like Assassin's Creed was an exclusive. But Sho, what was your reaction? Number one, what was your reaction to the Batman announcement? And then seeing the fallout and the backlash from it. What was your reaction to that?
I thought the fallout was ridiculous. I'm excited about the game, though. I still don't even You caught me off guard when you said IGN had negative feedback. What could they possibly say? I get PSVR haters from the fans, but IGN, what did they say?
The podcast was basically, hey, you're getting an Arkham game. I saw Forbes say this. A bunch of them said this. The headline, the byline was some paraphrasing of, hey, you're getting an Arkham game, but you're not going to be happy about it. It's a VR only game. That's pretty much what every major gaming outlet says.
This is just bogus. This is okay. Fine. Iron Man VR. Where else did that show up? Assassin's Creed. You know, like the list keeps going of exclusives, and people loved it. So this is not a VR issue. This is not a Meta exclusive issue. This is just your hater.
It's just VR haters. It's a non-story. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Forbes. Okay, got it. Thanks, Forbes. Gotcha.
Because they've been heralded as the pinnacle of VR media.
Yeah. But as the game goes, I'm very excited. I didn't love Iron Man, but not because it was a bad game. I just wish it had more diverse enemies. But the game is technically outstanding, and as a Marvel junkie, fantastic. So Batman in the hands of Camouflage, can't wait to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for the Batman game as well. I actually never played the original Batman Arkham VR. Wow. I have to make that happen. I know it's more of like a cinematic virtual experience.
Yes.
Right. So who knows?
Putting it
Maybe I'll
kindly,
do a
yeah.
themed month of Batman games when that finally releases.
I played that game for the first time the week Kevin Conroy died. So I did a tribute show on my stream, and that's what we
Okay.
played that night. To expand on the Arkham thing, so a lot of the controversy came from this. The last Batman game was Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, a game that has been just slammed by every outlet. It has it's been a flop by every measurable standard, and it was made by Rocksteady, who made all the Arkham games. The Arkham games are held in very, very high regard by a lot of gamers who played them back in the day.
2 of the 3 Arkham games, yeah.
Wow, you're not an Arkham Knight guy?
Okay.
No, they only made 2 of the 3 Arkham games, not including the VR.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
got it.
Thank you for correcting that. I appreciate it. But basically they said, okay, we've waited this long for an Arkham game. Since then, we got Gotham Knights, which a lot of people didn't like, and Suicide Squad, which just everyone hates. I've not met a single person who liked that game. So the last 2 Batman games since the Arkham series were trash, basically. And now you're telling me we're going to get another Arkham game and it's in VR? That's what pissed them all off. We're going to take the VR community out of it. That's what pissed off the non-VR community, was basically this is 3 games in a row that you're screwing us over. That's kind of how they took that.
Okay.
Before
so this feels more like straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, it's more sour grapes over the history of what this franchise has been over the last, when was the last Arkham game? The last actual Arkham game? When was Arkham Knight?
The Arkham Knight was, God, that was so long ago. That was the last generation.
10 years? 8 years? Something like that?
Maybe 8 years, something like that.
Yeah. So it's been a hot minute.
Because the Gotham Knights doesn't count.
No, oh God, no.
And Kill the Justice League doesn't count. So just, that one.
Yeah. Wow. So, yeah. And this was not being made by Rocksteady either. But basically, they saw Batman Arkham and then saw everything they didn't want. And that pissed them off. As far as the VR community, you already know what this is. Why it's in the meta exclusive, yada, yada, yada. Same stuff we saw with Assassin's Creed. Same stuff we saw with Asgard's Wrath 2. No one really batted an eye when Resident Evil 4 Remake was only PSVR 2. No one batted an eye when Synapse was only on there. But the meta exclusive out there, and it just becomes a thing. So I don't know what that says. I don't know what that means.
It's you know what it is? I think now that I'm hearing this out, I wouldn't say I'm a Batman fan. I like Batman. I like superheroes. But this definitely feels like the Batman Arkham community has been vying and really wanting something, and then getting teased with this notion of getting another game, and it's not just coming to life for them. I think that's really what it comes down to. Because you're right, there's exclusives on both sides. And other than this Batman game, no one's really complained about, the Asgard's Wrath games, the Lone Echo games, the Assassin's Creed Nexus, and no one's complained about Synapse or Call of the Mountain or RE4 Remake in VR. So it's just it seems like this is a Batman fan issue to me, and less of a people who are upset about the exclusivity of just having something on Meta.
It is one of the biggest IPs to come to VR.
Correct.
And the fact that it's coming to VR period and VR only, this iteration of Batman is going to be VR only, and it's on one platform only. I can almost understand why some people will be kind of perturbed by that. I think I more understand the Batman Arkham fans being upset than like the other VR, the other platform.
Yeah, I think the people. Arkham.
I get that a lot more.
Yes, I agree, because the same
8 years and this is what we're
mentioned.
Getting?
Yeah, right. The same criteria of what you just mentioned is exactly what Assassin's Creed is. It's a big IP that was very exclusive to Meta, and no one else. I didn't really hear any complaints that it wasn't on the PSVR 2 at all when that game was released. So, this feels like a Batman fan issue, right? And less of a I'm mad that it's a Meta exclusive issue.
They're more than welcome to pick up a Quest and try it out. That's my answer to that.
You get a Quest 2 for $200 now.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. No, I'm sorry. You're correct. Next topic. We'll just go right into this one. Welcome to the dawn of Quest 3 exclusives. We knew this was coming. I've said this before the headset came out. I said within the year you will get Quest 3 exclusives. And everyone said that's stupid. The Quest 2 is the biggest selling headset ever. They got to support that till the wheels fall off. Guys, the wheels fell off the second that thing came out, and everyone said it was underpowered.
Right.
The only reason the Quest 2 got legs is because of COVID. I'm sorry to call it like that, but call a spade here. COVID is what sold that headset.
Now you can get them on pawn shops.
Yeah. It's a $200 headset now. It is last generation hardware. And I will make this example to the day I die. At some point, Sony had to move on from the PlayStation 2. Even though that is the best-selling gaming console ever made, and the only one that's even close is the Nintendo DS, I believe. and that's 10 million units behind it. Eventually, Sony had to move on to the PS3. Whatever you want to say about the PS3, it's probably their least popular PlayStation ever made, but whatever. They had to move on to next generation hardware. They had to move on. They had to move past what was the past generation hardware. People said the Quest 1 and eventually the Quest 2 held back VR development for years. So now you're going to stick on that and say, well, we need to keep Quest 2 out there because it's sold the most. No, at a certain point, dated hardware is dated hardware. You have to move forward. So now we have 2 Quest 3 exclusives coming. We have Batman and we have the Aliens game from Survivals. Clay, I feel we need to have a conversation about Survivals. I feel about Survivals the way you feel about Vertigo games. But
I feel Vertigo can get back on my good list because I admire
you can grab something.
Fisherman's Tale. I know. Didn't they do Fisherman's Tale?
Yes, both of them. Mm-hmm.
Stellar games were they not? I didn't have problems grabbing anything in those games.
Did you play the second one yet?
Didn't play the second one. Did play the first one because I think about
the second one.
Ooh, that's a good one. Maybe I should bring that one as like a filler for stream.
That's a good
filler
game.
That offline. That's a good filler game.
But yeah,
I'm okay. Well, one, I'm generally okay with exclusives.
You're Sony guy. Of course you are.
I know.
You're a PlayStation guy.
I own be exclusive. It doesn't matter. I have all the platforms anyway. That's my stance. Yeah. Because just generally speaking, that's the business proposition, right? If everything was accessible to everyone, then there's no real reason to go for any specific company. This is just standard corporate competitive play.
We'll all still be on CV1s.
You know, it's like
everything was on the platform.
Were we really upset when Zelda didn't come to the Sega Genesis? Like, this is not a new concept, so it's surprising that people are so upset about exclusivity when it's been a thing that we've had since the creation of competitive gaming companies.
But it's relatively new to VR, and that's where I think the pushback comes.
Fair,
because VR started life as a PC gaming style where. Didn't matter. You could have a piece of crap 1050 or 4090 where you could all play the same games at different resolutions and different graphical settings, but you could all play the same games. The rise of standalone.
Your grass may look more real, and this other person's grass may look like, a cardboard cutout, but still.
But the rise of standalone hardware brought a console. I call it the consoleification of VR. It brought a console mentality to VR that we're not used to. So now we're going to talk later about the Quest 1 reaching end of life. The Quest 2 is going to reach end of life, I'm going to say within the next 2 years. Yeah, that's right. Pico has a separate store now. No one really talks about the Pico 3 because that wasn't a very good headset, but the Pico 4 is the next generation. They already talked, if they didn't can it, we're talking about releasing the Pico 5. Like, we're in this cycle now where the technology is advancing so fast that hardware is going to be dated almost the second it releases. Kind of like cell phones are. A cell phone is dated usually 2 to 3 months after releases because there's some new hotness from another company that comes out right behind it. So I don't personally have a problem with exclusive, but I'm multi-platform, so I'm a hard person to really judge that question. So
I'm also multi-platform, so it's like, okay, well, I can play anything at any time.
Like, Sho, there's probably a better question for you, honestly, because you do not have PCVR, right? Because you're a Mac guy.
No,
is that right?
I only have Quest 3.
You only have Quest 3. Okay, so you haven't played a single PSVR 2 game, and you don't play PCVR games. Have you ever felt like you're missing out on, like when PSVR 2 came out, did you feel like you were missing out by not getting to play Call of the Mountain?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Did he stutter?
Not even a second. Yes, absolutely. I would love to play Call of the Mountain, GT, and Gran Turismo, and Resident Evil Village. Absolutely.
Was it to a
point? Now, the new horror game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was it to a point where how can I put it? Where you were upset that it wasn't available to you?
No, that's silly. No. Okay. No, absolutely not.
He's also a grown man.
Yeah, right. I'm a grown man.
All these people, all of them are grown.
They don't act like
some of them are women, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I want it, I'll get the console myself. I mean, and I'll play it on my own. But who cares? Right. I mean, enjoy your fun. That's what I say.
Yeah, it amazes me that people who grew up playing consoles their whole lives, unless they owned every console. I did not come from a rich family. We picked one lane, which was Nintendo, and we stuck in it. I didn't have a Saturn.
Lane too.
I didn't have a Saturn. I didn't have a Dreamcast. Yeah. I didn't have any of those. I had a Genesis because my brother and I were fighting over which system we wanted to go with. My dad picked, and he said, "Nope, I love Nintendo." So we stuck with Nintendo. That's what I've had my whole life. I haven't had another console since the Genesis. Except for, I think my dad bought a CDI used at one point, which anyway. But it amazed me that the number of people who grew up playing consoles, and this is nothing new to them, push back when it's in VR. I think that's amazing. And people are going to say it's because of the size of the player base and all that stuff. These games still got to get funded. Meta paid to make this game.
Somebody's paying, and this is the larger user base. Like, think about just standard. Forget about gaming for a second. You are running a business. If you are running a small business, you're going to want to catch. You're going to want to like have the widest net at your market, and this is the way to do it. Especially if it's going to be funded by a big company. you know,
absolutely.
It just feels strange that people are that upset. And I would love to it'd be interesting to get someone on the podcast even to just discuss this, if from someone who's really upset about it, just so I can hear that POV.
If you look at the business sense of it, and this other thing, like a lot of people don't look at the business sense of it. Okay, so Meta's going to make every single penny off every single copy of Batman that they sell, other than whatever they paid for the license of the Batman license to DC or WB or whoever. If they pour it into Steam, they're giving up 30% of sales immediately. Immediately, because it's on a different platform. And they had to devote the resources to port that game to PC VR, which we've had long discussion about how PC VR development is one of the hardest platforms to develop for, because you're developing for a countless number of different headset plus PC rig configurations to deal with. PSVR 2, same thing. You are now selling the game on another platform. You have to now develop for that headset, maintain support for that headset, which we already talked about. Their support infrastructure is, and you're giving up 30% of your sales to Sony for both, in both of those cases, infinitely smaller player bases.
Infinitely smaller.
So some of the old managers say to me all the time, it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So it doesn't make sense for Meta to do that. For me, no. Business sense, it does not make sense for them to do that. So I understand it from a business perspective. As a fan, if I'm a Batman fan, I don't have a VR headset, I understand it. If I have a Quest 2, that's a bit of a harder sell, but I still understand it because I grew up playing consoles my whole life. You know, Donkey Kong 64 wasn't going to run on my SNES. It wasn't going to. GoldenEye wasn't running on my SNES. There's no chance that was happening. So I understood it. I understand it from that perspective. It boggles my mind that people who grew up playing these consoles and have been through console generation lives don't understand that. So fascinating.
I think the people's a lot of I see this a lot on socials where people say like you just have to be investing into the player base, and you know, like just the player should come first in all regard, and it's just a narrative that I don't completely subscribe to, because I'm also like, they're a business, they need to make money and they need to keep their businesses afloat, and this is the best way to do that. So
there is nowhere, it's not written in law that Meta is responsible for growing all the player base of VR. They're trying to grow their business. Sometimes their business doesn't include all of VR.
I think that gamers in general don't understand the business of the gaming industry as a whole, as we're seeing the narrative play out. Well, they don't understand.
Rewind. Say that again. Say that point again, please. That was
gamers in general don't understand the business of the gaming industry as a whole. Right. I mean, as we see right now going on with the whole Microsoft layoffs, I'm not going to get into all that. It's a disaster. But there is a narrative here that gamers we don't see the whole picture, but there is a business that people have to eat, money has to be made, and pockets have to be filled. Games are expensive. And there's a reason that studios are shut down. And one day we'll find out the story.
So coming off of basically the last two topics, next topic is about multi-platform releases. We kind of touched on this in the previous pod. I don't know which one it was. We were talking about Hellsweeper. We're going to talk about them again. The reason I'm bringing this up, number one, just today as we record this, the developers of Wanderers: The Fragments of Fate, which is the remake of a game that no one should have played, the first Wanderer. Clay's going to kill me. I'm
what? I'm done. This podcast is over.
Nah, Clay, I had a video game awards show and I left Wander off the list for best game of the year, and Clay has not let me live that down for a year.
Was that 2021?
2022. Yeah, 2022. Yeah. Has not let me live that down. Even though I played the game and I loved it. I just completely
blanked. You played the game, loved it, and didn't even add it to the list.
It came out in January of that year. I played like 60 games that year. I just didn't think
you held a year-long award show. You should have went back.
I totally forgot about it. Totally forgot about it. Anyway, Wanderers: Fragments of Fate, the remake, has been delayed from June to September 12th. They put a full date on it. Hopefully they're not like the makers of Madison. They're not like Perp.
September 13th, right? Yeah.
12th, 13th, something like that.
Yeah.
And the reason that they cited is they're in the process of moving the game to Unreal 5, and they need to do that. They didn't say this part. They didn't say this part out loud, but I've heard this from other developers. You need to be on Unreal 5, one, for certain functionalities on Steam, but two, most importantly, because Unreal 4 doesn't support dynamic foveated rendering. That is, I got that straight from two different developers, that they had to move to Unreal 5 to use eye track DFR for PSVR 2. And in previous pods, we talked about this. If you don't have DFR activated for PSVR 2, pretty much when your game releases, most people talk about how blurry it is or something like that. Like the visuals aren't sharp. And the games that have added DFR after the fact has been like night and day. No Man's Sky, Hellsweeper, so on and so forth. So Wanderer is just saying, we're just going to delay the release entirely because we can't release the best version of that game on at least one platform, if not two platforms, without making this convergence, so we're not going to do it. Contrast that with Zero Caliber and X-Real Games, also the makers of the infamous Gambit. X-Real Games released a dev diary, a very, very good one that I'll link in the description to this video, and I'll make sure that you guys see it too. I think I put it in our group thread, where they essentially said that it is going to release Zero Caliber 2, which was a PCVR game first, and then got pulled down to standalone, and in the process pissed off the PCVR community because they down the visuals. Zero Caliber 2 is going to be a quest-only game to start, and the reason that's going to happen is because the game was built in Unreal 4, and they said in the dev diary that to be able to release it on other platforms, it needs to be moved to Unreal 5. At the size of their studio, that would take them months, and with the resources they have, the people they have available to do that, it would take them months, if not over a year, to do that. So that would delay if they wanted to release on all platforms simultaneously, they would need to delay the game, and for a studio that small, that would cripple them. They can't afford it. And then there's the example of Hellsweeper that we talked about in the previous pod. There's a video on my channel. Go to my channel if you want to see that. It says PSVR 2 fans deserve better. Hellsweeper released without eye track dynamic foveated rendering, and frankly, the PSVR 2 version of the game was absolutely slammed for looking like crap. They have since put DFR in the game. People have re-reviewed it, and they said it looked fantastic. Marty talked about it. I know Gary Tag talked about it. About the game looked much better now that they put that feature in there. But it took them months after the release to do it. So I've asked this question before, but I'm coming back and ask it again. Number one, are you okay with a VR game, specifically a VR game, releasing on multiple platforms at different times to get the best version of that game on that platform? Or would you rather they put the game out? Clay, you're a PSVR 2 owner, so this might be a question more pertinent to you. Would you rather get that PSVR 2 game in substandard quality, knowing it's going to be updated later? Or would you rather they just wait?
Wait, because I'm a grown man and I got other things to do. Okay. Yeah,
agreed.
100%. I don't listen. I'm only going to play your game one time. I'm not one of those folks who can play 4, 5, 6 times. For the most part, maybe I can squeeze out two playthroughs if I'm feeling inspired. Genotype, I'm looking at you. I might do another one because there's a lot of good updates that's happened since I first played it. But I'm going to try to give you one good shot, and I'd rather you just wait and put out the best version of that game so that I can see you in the best light. And I think, honestly, from a business perspective, that's the best approach, too, especially for some of the smaller studios. Delaying their entire suite, their entire product suite by a year to update to Unreal 5, to your point, Mike, is going to cripple them. They need to make returns on their investment as soon as possible. So if that means releasing an Unreal Engine 4 version on the Quest and then spending 6 months to do an Unreal 5 version on a PSVR 2, I think that's just a better approach. It will piss off gamers because, as we learned from the Arkham debacle earlier, that some of us can't wait for whatever reason. But I think it's just the best interest of the studios and of the players in the long run to play it that way. And then if you can, and if you rather have like one big tentpole moment, one big splash, one big, this is my, moment, my time to shine kind of thing, and you can afford it, sure. But a lot of studios can't do that.
Yeah. Okay. So, Sho, what you got?
I'll wait. I'd rather, Clay said it best. Best version of the game. I wait for it. No big deal.
Okay. So would you, if you're in those shoes, would you take the Zero Caliber model? Okay, so let's say Wanderers Fragments of Fate is ready for Quest 3, but it's not ready for PSVR 2 and PCVR. Would you rather them see them drop the Quest version or release all the platforms at once? Does that matter to you?
To me, it doesn't matter, but on their end, I would imagine it matters greatly. So if it makes more business sense for the studio to bring them out a lot together, I'm fine with waiting. I'm sure most Quest owners wouldn't have that opinion. I'm fine with waiting. Whatever's best for the health of the game and the studio is what I'm down for. I want the best version of what they have to offer because, like Clay said, I'm only playing it once. You get one shot.
Yep.
And to be honest, it's in the best interest of the studios, not just monetarily, but even think about the reviews, right? Like there are games who end up being DOA because they put out a crappy version and it just never came back, right? Review bombing is a thing. It is very detrimental to these studios' businesses. So makes sense for them fundamentally. Delay the game per platform. If you can afford to do one big splash and delay it entirely for all platforms, then fine. But if they need to stagger it and release a Quest version and a PC VR version, I think that's the best approach. And I'm thinking about games that have done that to date. Genotype, I just mentioned, that has also done a staggered release. Did they not? Right? They released originally on the Quest 3, and then they had a PC VR version that came out in the winter.
And the PSVR 2 version.
And then PSVR 2 version. So,
But they had the luxury of being a hyper-polished game from jump. It was a great experience no matter what you chose from the beginning. And it only got better. So
was it hyper-polished because they had to stagger it? And it felt hyper-polished because it was staggered? Or was it just...
I don't think they intended to drop... How can I put it? I think they were measuring the demand from those other two markets before they decided to make those versions. I think when they started that game, they intended to only make a Quest game. And then demand and the game sold well enough that they felt good to port it to other platforms. But that game was meant to be a Quest 2 game. It was developed with Quest 2 in mind. Clay, when you and I both played it, I absolutely saw the drop resolution compared to other Quest 3 games I was playing. I played on Quest 2. I played that game for 2 years because I was in the beta process for it.
Yeah.
So I absolutely saw when I put the new headset on.
But even as a Quest 2 game, because I could tell the lower resolution, it was, to your point, Sho, it was a very polished game.
Yeah.
Right? So
there's nothing inherently wrong with it. There were no game breaking bugs. It was like I was wowed at how bug free that game was. I had one issue with it that I reported to them and they fixed it immediately. I was shocked at how good it was.
It came out the package really solid. So they intended, or actually ended up just building on the success of something that was really at its core a good game. And if we need to make these games good and staggering is the best approach, then we should do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just kind of it.
And to your point, Clay, and something that I think Marty touched on in the previous pod, people aren't going back to revisit games after they get updates. So I'm going to give like No Man's Sky is like the crown jewel of this is how you recover a game when you do this and this. But for every one of those,
Cyberpunk.
Yeah. And Cyberpunk's another good example. There are to date 92 games that have gotten Quest 3 updates. 92. I have a whole list of them. How many of those have gotten coverage since they got their updates?
Right.
You look at games like Hellsweeper. Hellsweeper has done, in my opinion, a remarkable job of recovering from a pretty bad launch. But how much coverage have they gotten? How much credit have they gotten for that? But ETDFR into PSVR 2. That game has been updated 3 or 4 times since it came out with new creature designs, new levels, new everything. Like they have done a remarkable job of like just iterating over that game. Mixed Realms will give you guys a lot of credit. You've done a fantastic job recovering from a shoddy launch, but they're the exception rather than the rule. To Clay's point, you only get one shot at it. So yeah, totally agree. But
people are upset.
Because people are impatient.
Yeah,
people are impatient. I'm 43 years old and I got a full-time job.
See, that's the problem with this podcast. We all old dudes here.
Yeah, we got jobs and lives and families.
We got jobs, families. It's like, you know what? I could save my money and just wait for it to just be really good.
This recording time is usually my VR time. I ain't playing VR tonight because I'm recording this podcast. I gotta go to bed after this. I gotta get up in the morning. I gotta work.
Same.
Yeah. Clay, for you specifically, and then I have a separate question for Sho. We are over a year since PlayStation VR 2 released. We're about 15 months in now. Do you have regrets on your investment?
That's a good question. I I don't have regrets, but I wouldn't say that it was worth the money, if that makes sense, right? I don't have regrets because the experiences that I have played on it were mostly exclusives. And I was not going to be able to experience Resident Evil 8, Call of the Mountain, Synapse, and I will start to play Resident Evil 4 Remake in VR. I would not have been able to play any of those games without the PSVR 2. And so I don't have any regrets because I've enjoyed most of those experiences for the most part.
You play Switchback too, right?
And Switchback. Switchback I didn't finish. And it's funny, as you were thinking about games that people don't go back to, like Switchback had also like a disastrous launch.
Yeah.
Right? I played it upon release.
Marty tore that game apart.
He tore that game up.
Go watch Marty's video on Switchback.
I had a lot of fun. Switchback was fun. I loved the parts where like they used the eye tracking really well. Anyway, and so there were some very specific tailored experiences that I really, really, really enjoyed. Now, as a separate VR platform, as it competes with the Quest 3, doesn't feel like it's holding a lot of weight because of the 250 titles, there were maybe like 10, 11 that were sort of exclusive to the PSVR 2. And then the rest of the 240 titles you can get on other platforms. And so that was not a... what it did is exactly what I thought it was going to do, what Sunny was going to do, which is let's create a headset, let's get in the market, and all these developers will need here's another revenue stream for them to make money and for me to make money. Because since the release, what software updates have they released? Any other peripherals? There's been nothing really supported from the Sony side for this product. It was a really high quality, put that in asterisks, headset that came out and did what it wanted to do, which was land grab. So do I regret it? No, because I've had a lot of fun with it. As a standalone, as a VR enthusiast who's played games across multiple platforms, Quest 3 still feels like the best bet just because of its additional versatility and, my daily driver when I just want to pick up a headset and play a game is the Quest 3. Right now, I'm also playing Red Matter 2. And I just pick it up, Quest 3. Beat Saber, Quest 3. Like if I just want to do anything quickly to take with me, I went to visit my wife's family in Ohio recently. Quest 3. So it's just it just it doesn't. I don't have any regrets, but it's hard for me to like say that if you were going to get a VR headset right now, tell a new person, I want to get into VR. What's the headset I should get? Unless you have a PS5 already, Quest 3. And even if you do have a PS5, maybe Quest 3 is still your best bet.
Yeah.
Because guess what?
Wow.
We're getting Batman. We're getting Batman and you're not.
Wow.
Okay, that's funny. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Full circle. Anyway, that's my piece.
Yeah. Okay. I got a follow-up question. I'm going to ask Sho this question first. Sho, question to you. Do you have FOMO? A year out from PSVR 2, do you regret not getting it?
Not at that price, no. But if I'm not at all. But at the right price, at the right timing, sure, I have fun. I would love to play some of those PSVR exclusives because there are experiences in the PSVR 2 that Quest just can't do.
Correct.
Right?
You're correct.
Like GT, not going to happen. There's not going to happen. And I would love to feel what that feels like.
Yes.
What about Grid Legends?
What about Grid Legends?
What about Grid Legends?
Yeah.
I mean, to your point, though, Sho, I will say those games that I named felt like AAA quality VR games, hands down. Call of the Mountain. I didn't play GT because I'm not a big race guy, but Call of the Mountain, stellar. Resident Evil 8 had some qualms with it, but really great way to get people into VR. Synapse, I felt like a superhero, literal superhero playing Synapse. And now I'm playing Madison, not an exclusive, but I can see the quality is there, and it's just been a top-notch experience. But all the other titles, like my regular everyday gaming, Quest 3.
Sho, do you have a PS5?
No.
Do you think that your opinion would have changed? Okay, so let's say you had a PS5 when Quest 3 came out, and you're sitting with both of those in your hand. With having a PS5 and thus offsetting that $400 to $500 cost Would that have swayed you one way or the other? No.
No, I still think that the PSVR 2 for me was overpriced. I understand why it was priced that way, but I there's no way I would have paid that for that. Not until I saw a more clear roadmap, which never materialized. So yeah, the only
PSVR 2 is what, $599?
$550.
$550, and then the Quest 3 is $499 base.
$500.
$399.
Yeah,
$499. Yeah.
No way. I think again, had they a clear roadmap, had they said, "Hey, we're going to bring some of the PSVR 1 classics to the PSVR 2," okay, now we're talking. But right now we're talking really 5 games, 5 excellent games, but 5 games,
stellar, stellar. So we're still talking about 5 games.
Okay. Yeah, 5 games. Yeah, so that's my take on PSVR 2.
Yeah, for me, I don't have regrets because I felt that Sony. I'm a commitment guy. I felt that Sony was not going to commit to that as its own standalone hardware. It was going to treat it like an accessory in the same way it would treat a handheld like an accessory, like the Vita and the PlayStation Portal. Nothing against the Vita and the PlayStation Portal, but it was not their primary revenue driver. So it was always getting, I want to call the second-hand offshoots of the franchise. It wasn't getting a full-on Horizon game with Aloy and all those characters and everything. It got like Far Cry has a whole bunch of like offshoot games starring secondary characters and stuff like that. Uncharted had a couple of these too, but they're not like mainline games. I thought Horizon was going to be the way that they were going to go, which was for our franchise. You might get a Last of Us VR game, but it's not going to be in the main line. It's going to be like a side story or some other characters, completely removed from the lineage of Last of Us 1 and 2. I thought they were going to treat it like a second tier gaming system, which essentially compared to the PlayStation is what it is. 50 million sold on PS5. PS2 is the best one ever selling, best one console ever sold, so on and so forth. They weren't going to treat it like that because PSVR 2 was never going to be that. And that was kind of my hesitation to it of I didn't see the dedication there. I didn't think they were going to be committed enough to it to pour into it year after year after year after year after year. And I saw what happened to the PSVR 1 where game output started to decline after a couple of years until people were getting excited for my Transformers arcade shooter because that was the only thing that was coming to that platform before the platform finally died. And that game was trash. So
didn't PSVR 1 last 4 years?
I want to say it was 4 years. Yeah.
That's healthy. That's a pretty good run.
Mm-hmm.
They support
I didn't, how can I put it? I was concerned that they weren't going to, after year 1, continue to pour resources into it. So I'm curious what PSVR 2 year 2 looks like. And maybe in a year, I'm picking up one on sale because I've seen, now I have 10 or 20 games I want to play on it, possibly. But right now, I just don't have it.
Well, let me double back on that. I strongly believe that the PSVR 2 story is still being told. I don't think this is the end of PSVR 2 at all.
I hope so.
I agree.
I don't think so either. I am rooting for the success of that headset from afar. I am begging Sony to give me a reason to buy one. I just don't have enough of a reason to buy one yet. It's not enough of a value add for me when 90% of the library I can play elsewhere on headsets already.
I mean, there is the Steam thing, right, that they announced recently with having the compatibility between the PSVR 2 and Steam, which to our earlier discussion, we think it'll likely end up being like a Steam Access app similar to what's on the Quest 3. Could that help revive some energy toward the headset?
I think the PC VR holdouts who didn't want to have to buy a PS5 because they've already spent $2,000 on a 4090, they would probably buy one at that point. I don't think it moves the needle for the general populace.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious how many people, and I don't know the numbers on this, I'm just throwing this question, a rhetorical question. I'm curious how many people out there have a PS5 and actively use it versus having a VR-ready PC and actively use it for gaming. I'm curious where those numbers are.
Yeah, I can't help with that because I got all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is literally what my biggest hobby is. But for the casual gamer, you're right. It's a good question.
Yeah, like that's a hard question to answer. So sorry, Sho, you got something?
No, I'm just curious. Impact Reality, right? Didn't they just announce? Is it Impact Reality or an offshoot where Wes and those guys announced they're going to be doing game, not convergence, but
Well, the Flat to VR community.
Thank you, Flat to
Those
VR.
guys.
They're going to be bringing more games over to all platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see what they do with PSVR 2, because they said it's not just PC. They're going to be releasing on platforms too.
Yes. And they did tease on Twitter that they did get a code base for some PlayStation games.
Yeah.
And so I'm very curious about how that will work. And I will even like bite my, like, I had a foot and mouth moment, I guess, because I was so convinced that like ports and mods weren't going to be the future of VR.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm seeing
there.
this, Mike's like, this is still true. I might be seeing something slightly different, because the excitement about Madison, which was a flat game coming to VR, amongst flat game people who just play games out that aren't VR, there was some excitement there that, oh, it's coming to VR, similar to Resident Evil 4 Remake. However, I will say, to your earlier point, not many people played it anyway, but there seems to be something about bringing these franchises, these well-known franchises and games and titles, to VR, even if it's not a perfect experience. I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm a little bit more convinced than I was, I don't know, 6 months ago.
I think there's a difference between general interest and people actually pulling out their wallets. Like, I think Medicine VR will do well for you on Twitch because people will watch it. How many of them are going to go buy a VR headset to play it? Those are two completely different questions.
So true. Yeah.
So, you know, like, it's like I'm really excited for a movie, but I pay for 6 streaming platforms a month. I'm not going to a theater. I'm going to wait for it to come to streaming.
Sure.
You know, is it enough to be worth plunking down $500 to go buy a headset to play one game? I don't think any one game is worth $500. So,
well, more than that, especially if you're coming from net zero, right? Like,
the
PlayStation itself is $300, $400 plus the PSVR.
Where you getting the PS5 for $300? I need to live where you live, because I've yet to find one less than $400.
Man, $400, right? And then the PSVR 2 is another $550. So we're talking about a $950 investment. And that was my argument against PC VR early days when standalone became a thing. And everyone's like, yeah, but the PC quality is awful. I'm like, it's going to cost me $2,000 to play a $60 game. I'm not doing it, you know? Yeah. And Sony's running into that same problem.
You can get a second. I mean, I'm shocked because I was just researching the other day. You can get a secondhand PSVR bundle for $650. Easy these days.
I'm seriously
with the PS5.
Yeah. I paid $700 for my Quest 3, so I can justify that for sure. Okay, last question. So everyone doesn't confuse us of being Quest owners or whatever, because I plan to talk about this too. We all have Quest 3s. It is 2 days as we record this from being the 7th month mark since Quest 3 came out. Where are you at with it? The same question I asked about PSVR 2. Do you have any regrets with it? Are you very, very happy with it? Do you feel like you've gotten your money's worth from it? Sho, I'll start with you.
Great. It's a great piece of hardware. It has its faults, but they're improving it. No regrets. Worth every penny. Okay. If you want to play games. If you want to
I'm about to say, because you're productivity guy, so I was expecting a different answer from you.
No, productivity is not built for that, and it's not going to happen. But for gaming and general purpose VR, and for bringing people in VR, especially the surprise that has been mixed reality, fantastic.
So you're saying it's not going to happen, period. So you're of the mind now that you're going to have to get what you want, because you want to you want to work in VR. You're saying you're going to have to buy another headset for that. Is that where you're at right now? You're going to need like an AVP.
If I had the money for an AVP, I would have an AVP for productivity. And the Quest, I would delete everything that's not a game off my Quest and just use Quest for gaming. That's it.
Okay. So you treat it just like a console, and that's it.
Correct. Okay. That's what it is. That's all it is.
Okay.
It's like trying to make a Nintendo Switch, put a calendar app on it and other productivity apps. It's a complete waste of time.
Calculator. Like, what are you doing?
Complete waste of time.
There is a calculator game on there.
But to your point, I'm not pulling my Switch to do some long division.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
Oh man.
Clay, where you at?
I agree with Sho. It has been a really, it's just been my daily driver for VR. Like, I'm starting to look into it as a fitness device now, and so I'm exploring ways of working out in VR. So it's kind of serving two purposes in addition to gaming, and it's just been my gaming daily driver. I'm also playing, I didn't mention this at the top of the hour, but I am also playing Red Matter 2. And seeing some of these games and and the quality that can be produced on a standalone is really impressive. So no regrets. It has done more than I had hoped it would do. The pancake lenses, and those pancake lenses are just perfect. I just pop it on without even having to think about a sweet spot and figuring out how to just get it just right. It just feels like a no-brainer to me. So no regrets. Definitely got the money's worth because I've spent a lot of time in it. And yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for more creator support with it. Like being able to see chat from Twitch is still something that's missing. I know that people still are plagued with some recording issues with the Quest 3. So I'd love for it to feel a little bit more easy for us to be able to sell it to others. But yeah, so far, one of my favorite pieces of hardware. I would say that I was loving the Quest Pro for a long time when I was playing the Quest Pro actively, which is still a stellar piece of hardware. But the Quest 3 is now king in my mind.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned fitness. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, well, XR workout, everybody use it.
Is that it? And I need apps. I need the suggestions because I'm trying to.
We'll wrap offline.
Trying to get fit.
We'll wrap offline about that. I didn't ask my follow-up question for you on PSVR 2. What gets you to pick up the Quest 3 over PSVR 2? Because you know you're going to get better graphics, mostly on PSVR 2. What gets you to grab one headset over the other if you have the game available on both? If you're looking at Red Matter 2, for instance, available on both, why did you buy the Quest version?
Oh,
and then I'll get my question.
It's funny. I mentioned this. It's just ease. Like, I don't have to be tethered to a cable. I don't have to. The battery life on a headset, depending on if the settings are tweaked right, can last me about 3.5 hours. As a standalone, the PSVR 2 still has controller battery limitations. I run out of battery for the PSVR 2 within 2.5 hours. So I know my gameplay is going to get shortened. That said, I know that I'm a power user of VR, so I think that that's a non-issue for most, but for me it kind of is. And so if I need to travel, if I need to work at a different place, if I needed to play some games while sitting down in my bedroom, I don't have to worry about where my PS5 is and where I can plug it in there. I just simply take my Quest 3 wherever I need to go. So it's just the portability and the ease at which I can get in and out of the game is just top notch.
Yeah. So for me, we'll wrap up after this. I didn't value it as much until I put another headset on again. Like I was using, I was like, okay, it's pretty cool. I like the pancake lenses. It's really versatile. It's got this, that, and the other thing. But I said in my first
object.
Yeah, I said in like my first 3 reviews of it, my first day, my first week, and my first month, I was like, you can probably wait. Like a Quest 2 is fine. And in my heart of hearts, I believed that when I said it. And then I put my Quest 2 back on. And I was like, oh damn. Like that was startling. To number one, try to find the sweet spot again. Number two, my IPD is 72. And those 3 settings never did it for me. So it was blurry, and I have 20/20 vision. I should not be seeing blurry in a headset. The front heaven, like until I put the old one on, then I appreciated everything that they changed for this. And at first, it didn't feel like a generational leap forward until I played the last hardware, and I was like, okay, no, wait, every single conceivable thing gets better on this headset, and then I appreciate it more. I appreciate it a lot more when I pay for it. I still have software issues, but the software issues existed before this headset came out, and this headset wasn't going to fix software issues. It fixed a lot of hardware issues for me, and I'm very happy with that. With all the games that are getting Quest 3 updates, and these continue to happen, some of them are better than others. Go check my YouTube channel if you want to see some of those. Some of them have been better than others. Some of them are just a render resolution bump, and that's it, or higher refresh rate, which doesn't really matter if you're playing something like Vacation Simulator. Sorry to Alchemy Labs. I love that game, but higher resolution doesn't really matter for that game. But it matters for like shooters and things like that. So I appreciate what it does more now that I've had to use other headsets. I didn't have my left controller for a couple of weeks because I had to send it in to get RMA'd. So I used the DPVR E4, my Quest 2, and my Pico 4 until I got my controller back. And it stood out like a sore thumb how much I missed my Quest 3 as my daily driver. Like there's just
that's great.
So I appreciate it a lot more now. But I needed to not have it for a while to realize what I was missing out on. So
absence makes the heart grow fonder, my friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, we're gonna wrap up here. Let's talk about Sho. Where can we find you on social media? If people want more Sho Futuristic, where can we find you?
Sho Futuristic on Twitter, X, Twitter, X, and on YouTube.
All right, and Clay.
And you can find me on all of the places. However, you'll have the most fun on Twitch. So find me, Hey Call Me Clay on Twitch. We have a good time playing a bunch of VR. Next up after Madison is Resident Evil 4 Remake. So pop in for that. It should be a good time. And then we'll see what Mike convinces me to play after that.
I mean, it won't be hard to convince you. I got some options lined up for you. We'll talk sometime this weekend.
Deal.
I'm Live Open Mic on all socials you can think of, Twitter/X, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram. You don't really follow me on Instagram. I don't really do a whole lot there. But primarily, YouTube, Twitch, and X are where you're going to find me. So thanks, fellas. It was good to get back together again. We'll be back next month, unless real life intervenes again, as sometimes it's want to. Things happen. But some iteration of this, we'll be back here soon. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. Peace.
Peace.